What communication strategies do not work well with Alzheimer's disease and dementia? We've talked about a few of these this evening, but what does not work very well? Confrontation. Why does confrontation not work well? Because it escalates. So when the patient is using one of these behaviors, say they're trying to get out the front door, or they yell at you, if we start to confront them, Mom, you know you're not supposed to go out that door, or Mrs. Smith, please lower your voice. When we confront them on their behavior, what is typically the result? A lot of times, it's gonna escalate. They might, if they're yelling, they're gonna raise their voice. Because the confrontation is really simply an example of reasoning. What you're trying to do is reason with somebody who can't be reasoned with. Somebody who truly has an irreversible dementia like Alzheimer's. In the advanced stages, they can't be reasoned with. They can't be reasoned with because their brain is not working properly. And when we say, you know you're not supposed to go out the front door, or we get in front of that front door, then we're trying to reason with them, and we're trying to explain to them the way we would with somebody who does not have an irreversible dementia, and it's not successful. Now, is there ever a time that reasoning and rationalizing and what we call reality orientation, is there ever a time that it might be appropriate? When? When they're having a good day and they seem to know what's going on, that might be okay to use reason and rationalization, reality orientation. Can someone give an example of that? What's a good example of a time that using reason or reality orientation is going to work well? Yes?
If they ask you a question?
Yeah. They ask you a question. When is my husband coming to visit? And we know that the husband, let's say he's in a nursing home himself, and we know he's not coming to visit. What might be a good way to handle that? You might want to try, you can try reasoning. Trying reasoning and reality orientation is okay. But you want to abandon it with somebody who has advanced dementia if it's not working. So for example, a lot of families say, well, if they ask me the question, I'm going to answer. You know what, Mom, Dad is actually at the nursing home, remember? And she might say, oh, right, that's right. But she also might say, no, he's not. He's not in a nursing home. So that's when we want to abandon ship. We do not want to keep pushing the reality orientation in somebody with an advanced dementia. We get this question a lot when someone passes away. So Mom has Alzheimer's disease, advanced Alzheimer's, and her sister passes away. And I recently had this situation where the adult children said, we've got to tell, her sister was her best friend. How do we not tell her that her sister died? She's going to wonder why her sister's not visiting. And so they can try. It's okay to sit down with Mom and say, Mom, Mary passed away. Doing it once, okay. But if we're going to have this conversation with Mom every single time she asks where Mary is, this is probably going to be a major communication error that we would make. But you can try. A lot of times, doing that reality orientation with a family, it's to assuage the family's guilt. I can't not tell her that Mary died. How would that be? That's not appropriate. But in situations like that, we can try it, we can do it, we can say it, but if we keep beating the patient with Alzheimer's over the head with the fact that Mary died, who does that help? anybody. It's going to frustrate, hurt, upset. You're going to get a grief response frequently from Mary. And the family is going to go through a lot of challenges as well. Not to mention the staff who have to deal with this traumatic reaction. But a reality orientation like that, you can try it. If someone's in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease or dementia, reality orientation often is going to be helpful because that person is spending a lot of time in the present. They're not in that long-term memory nearly as much as somebody with advanced dementia. And so they might be relying on your help to, we just had dinner, right? And we don't want to use validation and say, oh, tell me about your favorite food. That would be an example of validating, right? Or let's redirect her to an engaging activity. That probably isn't a very good, but she's in early stages. We want to say, yeah, Mom, we just had dinner. We just had that chicken, remember? And so in the earlier stages, it can be good. In the later stages, relying too much on reality orientation is typically a big communication error that we would make. So expecting the communication with the patient to be normal. When we expect communication with the patient with Alzheimer's disease to be normal, when we expect them to communicate like us, that's a major error. Because they're not going to communicate like us. We've already watched the video of what havoc is going on in that brain. It's not good what's going on in that brain. So much is changing. So much is deteriorating. And so they're not going to be able, if I say to you, what are you doing this weekend? You're going to be able to answer me. If I say that to somebody with advanced Alzheimer's, they're probably not going to be able to answer that question. But what might they be able to answer? Would you like to go to the beach this weekend? They might be able to answer that. Or what might be another kind of question that we could ask? Are you hungry? And sometimes they're going to be able to answer, sometimes not, but sometimes it might be a matter of, from where we are tonight, we don't want to drive the beach for a test run, but we might want to take them to the park and see how they do. A better way to communicate is to test things out, or if they answer, are you hungry, if they say yes or if they say no, a better way might be to put food in front of them. The rest of us, we rely on the fact that you're going to tell me if you're hungry or not, or you're going to tell me if you feel like going to the beach or if you feel like going to the park. Whereas somebody with Alzheimer's disease, sometimes they need to see what they're saying yes or no to. So a mistake is when we try to expect that patient to communicate like you and I do, because they're not capable of it anymore.